Jan students, welcome once again. And today we are going to study chapter number 2, Lost Spring by Anish Young from our main course book, Flamingo. And for this, first of all, that we will discuss about the main features of the story, those important points we will discuss, that which is important for us to understand the story, and from where important questions, long answer type questions can be asked. And then we will also go through the story and see the explanation thoroughly. So first of all, I am going to share with you the main points of the story. So wait a minute, children. Now you can see the chapter number 2, Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood by Anish Young. And this is the chapter number 2 from first book, main course book, Flamingo. And Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood, which is written by Anish Young. So first of all, let us see the main features of this story. That is, first of all, let us know about the author, Anish Young. Anish Young was born in Rourkela in 1964, and she spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. She received her education in Hyderabad and in the United States of America. Her parents were both writers. Anish Young began her career as a writer in India. She has been an editor and columnist for major newspapers in India and abroad as well. And she has authored several books. The following chapter is an excerpt from her book titled Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. Now, this was about the author, because I have already told that questions will not be asked from about the author, but however, we should know something about the author. That's why means this point has been discussed. And now let us see the second point, that is the introduction of the story, Lost Spring. And in this lesson, this chapter is an excerpt, an extract from the author's book titled The Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood, as we know. And in this lesson, the author Anish Young, who has been the editor of Youth Times and columnist for major newspapers in India and abroad, she analyzes the grinding poverty prevailing in India, grinding poverty in different parts of India, which are being prevailed. She has been discussed here in this story. And now she describes the factual events. In this story, she describes the factual events and situations of misery, which is concerning to the poor children. And she also expresses a deep concern over the exploitation of those poor children. The author also analyzes the traditions which condemn these poor children to a life of exploitation. Now here we see that the author also describes the miserable and pathetic conditions in which the poor children live in different parts of the country. She depicts her familiarities with the barefoot rag pickers realistically in this chapter. And now students, after this let us take another point, that is the theme of the story, The Lost Spring. In this story, the writer Anish Jung depicts the miserable and pathetic condition of the children who are forced to do labor at an early age, means in their childhood. And due to their miserable conditions, due to their poverty, they do not have an opportunity to get proper education. And in order to illustrate the theme, the author first described the miserable condition of the rag picker named Saheb. Actually, his name is Saheb-e-Alam. And she also describes the pathetic condition of a bangle maker whose name is Mukesh from Firozabad. And both of them are actually the victims of poverty and social stigma. And like in the since the story is divided into two parts, the first part belongs to Saheb, who is a rag picker, and in order to get rid of poverty, he takes up a job with a tea stall owner. And whereas Mukesh dares to dream, and he wishes to become a motor mechanic, and he also wants to drive a car, means he does not want to continue the family traditions of working in bangle factory. And both of them are quite aware of their poverty, their circumstances, but in spite of this, both have a good dream. They aspire to play, and they also want to lead a good and happy life. But since they are poverty stricken, and that's why the poverty comes in their way, and millions of children like them, like Saheb and Mukesh, lead a life of poverty, and they are deprived of the pleasure of their childhood. And what writer wants to highlight here is that the writer criticizes the authorities concerned and the society of, and she also criticizes the society for their apathy towards these towards the miserable conditions of these children. And she also appeals to the concerning authorities to improve the conditions of these poor children, these poor families. And she also urges to take immediate steps for the betterment of their life. And here in this story, the author Anish Jung emphasizes that there is an urgent need for providing education to these children for their upliftment, for their better upbringing. And now, students, that we are going to take that another important point, that is the title. And now remember, student, this title of this chapter is very important, because generally the question is being asked from this chapter regarding the title. Justification means justify the title. So that's why this title, to justify the title, is very important. And this question, remember, can be asked as a short answer type, and the same question can also be asked as a longer answer type, to answer in 120 to 150 words. So remember the title, The Lost Spring. The significance of the title is very important to understand. And here we see that the childhood of human life is the spring period of one's life. We know it because the childhood is the most important period of our life, or anybody's life, and that's why it is called the spring period of one's life. It's spring period because most beautiful period of life, like that the season, out of all the seasons, that the spring season is the most beautiful part of the year. So same as the childhood is the most beautiful part of our life, of anyone's life, and that's why it is called the spring season. It has been compared with the spring season. And because why it is the spring, childhood is the spring of human life, because it is full of fun, it is full of enjoyment, it is full of pleasure. It is also known for its innocent merriment, innocent pranks. And during this period, children are not aware of any kind of stresses, any kind of tensions, any kind of burden, any kind of responsibilities of their life. But many children like Sahib and Mukesh lead a miserable and pathetic life, because they are forced to do labor to earn living instead of getting education and enjoying their life in their childhood. Their parents who are poverty stricken, because the reason is that their parents who are poverty stricken, they cannot afford to send them to schools, as they don't have that much money, because they are very poor. So we can also see that the thousands of such children are engaged in such kind of work like rag picking in the streets, or large number of the children also spend their daylight hours in Bengal industry, Firozabad, to earn some money in order to support their family. And due to poverty, they are deprived of normal pleasures of childhood, which is the right of a child. and so as a result they lose their spring, they lose their best part of their life, means that is their childhood. And because the childhood means what generally children should do in their childhood, they should go to school, they should enjoy the game, they should play the game, they should spend the life of pleasure. But such kind of children like Mukesh from Simapuri and Sahib from Simapuri and who is a rag picker, and Mukesh from Firozabad who is a bangle maker, their childhood, they have to lose their childhood, they have to lose the pleasure of the childhood. At the time of the childhood, when they should go to school and enjoy their life, enjoy the pleasure of their life, they are carrying the burden of the family, and they become the earning members of the family. In this way, the best part, the spring, their best part of their life has been lost. And that's why the title has been, this chapter has been titled as The Lost Spring. And that in this way the title is absolutely appropriate and logical. And now let us move to the another important point, that is the message. You know that through this chapter Anish Jung, means the writer, the author, wants to convey a very strong message to the authority, to the concerning authority, to the government, to the society. And what is it that she describes through this chapter? She describes the miserable conditions of the children who are forced to do the labor at an early age, means in their childhood. And due to their miserable conditions, due to their poverty, they do not get an opportunity to get education, to go to school and enjoy their childhood. And here in this story, both Sahib and Mukesh are aware of their circumstances. They know it very well that they are poverty stricken, and that's why they are compelled to become the earning members in their childhood. And but in spite of this, that both these children, these poor children, have a dream. They aspire to play some games, and they also aspire to lead a good and happy life. And here the author Anish Jung criticizes the concerning authorities and the society for their apathy towards the miserable conditions of these children. And she also appeals to the government to improve the lot of these poor children and take some strict and immediate measures to improve their lot. And now let us see that another topic which will also help you to understand the story well, that is the character. And as much as character concerned, so we find that in this chapter has been divided into two parts. In first part we see that Sahib, who is a child who is a rag picker, and in the second part we see that Mukesh, that whose condition is who also lost his childhood, because he also has to carry the burden of their family. And let us see that let us know something about the Sahib. Saheb, who belongs to the community of rag pickers, and he is often seen, searching for the gold, searching for something valuable in the garbage dumps, in the vestiges. Uh, though his full name is Sahib Alam, which means the Lord of the Universe, but he is absolutely ignorant of the meaning of his name. And the narrator asked Sahib that he should join a school instead of scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps. But then the Sahib replied that there was no school in their neighborhood, and he also added that if there will be any school in their neighborhood, he will go to school. And here we can see that Sahib, who is living at Simapuri, which is in the on the periphery of Delhi, uh, he is migrated from Bangladesh to India in 1971 with his family. And because their fields means he had home, means his family had their homes there, their fields there, but all those had been swept away by the storm. So they were poverty stricken, and which forced these families to migrate in search of job to India, and that's why they have been living in Simapuri, which is very close to Delhi, leading a miserable life. And on the other hand, in the second part of the story, we see that is the another character, that is Mukesh. And Mukesh, who belongs to a Bengal maker's family, and he has to work in Bengal factory. And since he is also a child, and he has to work in Bengal making factory in order to earn some money so that he can also support to his family. But he has also a bright dream in his eyes. He does not want to continue the the work of Bengal making as his family does, and he has a dream to be a motor mechanic. He wants to be a motor mechanic, and he wants to drive a car. Means he wants to do something different from his family members. But since he is also a poverty stricken, that's why that he is unable to fulfill his dream. These are the two protagonists of the story, The Lost Spring. And so now that since we have studied all these points, all these important points, and it will be easier for us to understand the story, The Lost Spring, well. So that's all, students. That now next day that we will study, we will see the explanation of this story thoroughly. That's all for today, and in our next class we will see the explanation of this story. So thank you and have a nice day for today.